MLB live before lock here, and we've got Tyler's producer waiting. There we go. We're live. We're good. We got this. We're doing it live. Gundacker, how you doing? You had a little fun today. Waking up, not sure what day it was, not sure what country you were in.
Yeah, it's usually every day. Nah, I usually don't roll out of bed till I have to, and sometimes I'm not quite sure. You know, our schedules can be a little fluid, especially if there's like an afternoon slate. And I don't know, in my mind, when I woke up and it was after 3, I was like, wait a minute, am I late? No, I was actually not late. So we're good.
So I got up at 5:45, did a whole day's of work, slopped the hogs, milked the cows, mowed the back 40, wrote a couple articles, took a nap, and was still up before you.
Bro, if I think I went to sleep at like 7 a.m. I'm just a night guy, man. I can't do this daytime stuff. You guys are weird.
Oh, good times. All right. Well, we have 6 games here. I'll have to take a peek here at that weather over in Chicago. It was varying reports on that, but we've got time. It is a 7:15 lock tonight. We do have all of the lineups. We got a lot of fun ahead of us here. For those of you looking for a little free content, it is the Awesemo MLB. I've got NBA on the mind. I was finishing up my NBA article before we came on air. We have the MLB ownership for the main slate. We also have the MMA Top Fighters tool. Yes, the Conor McGregor pay-per-view bout slate, whatever we're calling it, has started. However, DraftKings does have their 8 o'clock slate of their televised slate, as they call it. And one other fun thing, if you go over to Awesemo.com, you see those little banners pop up there for ESPN and advertising the Conor McGregor, Dustin Poirier fight. Dustin is the part I was trying, just McGregor and Poirier, that part I know. But you click on that and it takes you there. You can sign up for the pay-per-view. We get a little hearty handshake on the back end there. Helps us keep the stuff free here. But check that out. You can sign up for it is a pay-per-view. You get to watch on ESPN, I think the first 7 fights, and then the final 5 go behind their paywall for the pay-per-view. But if you sign up there via ESPN Plus, you can sign up tonight for $89.98. That gets you the pay-per-view and then a full year of ESPN Plus, which gets you all sorts of other stuff going on. If you already have an ESPN Plus, you can get the pay-per-view for $69.99. But if you come through our link, that helps us out, helps us keep the stuff free on the back end. So we do appreciate that. And then, of course, we are sponsored by PrizePicks tonight. So we will talk in depth about them as we get into the games. And then finally, don't forget to like and subscribe. We're marching towards 60,000 subscribers here on our YouTube channel. It does help us battle that pesky YouTube algorithm by getting more subscribers. And if we get more subscribers watching our shows, those count even more than just regular people watching our shows. So you guys want to count twice? Jump on in, be a subscriber. Gundacker, 6 games, a lot of decent pitching on this one. Yesterday, no good pitching at all. 2 days ago, the good pitching got blowed up in a big way with Scherzer and Yu Darvish. What the heck are we doing tonight? What's your general thought? We got 3 going off at 7:15 and then 3 at the 10 o'clock hour tonight. What's your as we dive into here? What's your overarching thought on the slate?
Right now I just got a lot of Joe Musgrove.
Good.
7 points.
We'll go into depth on him in due time.
And then I kind of like split the middle tier with like Bueller and Peralta, and then in my shotgun spray and pray, I got guys like I'll have some Cole, Sandoval, Marquez, Greinke, guys like that. So I have it evenly tiered, but I do have to take a little bit more aggressive stands on the top end pitchers just because I feel like their floor is a little bit higher than some of these other guys. So Musgrove, I think that price. The DraftKings pricing on pitching has been odd.
They thought this game was in Coors Field. That was my assessment this morning for Musgrove's price. 7,700, I think.
So we say that, and then like I don't know if you remember yesterday's pricing on pitchers. There were some weird guys at 9 and 10K. Like the D-backs pitcher, I think was 10K. I'm just like, what are they doing?
We had Taylor Widener, who had pitched in a couple months.
What are they doing? So like I don't know if they just randomly pick numbers to price pitchers, but and I thought yesterday with or was it yesterday we had a Manoah was cheap enough to not play it. I mean, same with Musgrove. I just think like even if I didn't love the matchup, he's just kind of too cheap at his talent to not play. So I'm just gonna have to be aggressive on him on a medium slate.
All right, well, let's cruise on in here. We'll go game by game. We've got some fun stuff to talk about for each game. We'll throw in a few things here and there. Probably even have some time for some questions on the backside here. First game up, New York Yankees, 4.0 implied run total. They are going into Houston, taking on Zach Greinke, who somehow is 8-2 because we judge everybody by records these days. He has a 3.64 ERA. How? I don't know, because his fastball and his changeup are essentially exactly the same speed. You have Garrett Cole, who has allowed 10 home runs in the 44 and the third inning since they started checking for sticky stuff. What do you want to do in this game, and why is it? Do you believe in Garrett Cole? Is he coming back? Does he have revenge in his heart? Is he going to know if the trash can's being banged or not? What's going on here for the Yankees and Astros?
No, I don't think Garrett Cole's a revenge type. Even like great Garrett Cole right now, it's going to be a tough matchup no matter what.
Only when it's his old college teammate, Trevor Bauer.
Yeah, right? Just Bauer. Like, the Astros, they let him cheat and get a fat contract. There's no revenge there. Even like the early season Garrett Cole's in a not a huge matchup against this Astros team. Not a ton of strikeouts baked into this one with Brantley in a 2 spot. He's got a sub 10% carry rate against righties in the last 2 years. So I'm going to have some Garrett Cole just to have him, right? 10K, whatever. But I'm playing him more so on a medium slate as a real life pitcher. Like, I still think he's a good real pitcher, just maybe not the strikeout artist that we expect him to be going forward. So at 10K on this slate, if you knock on a door at 25, go for it. But that's not what I expect out of him. Like, I still have some Astros bats in the mix for me, but just to diversify my pitching portfolio, I'm going to have some exposure to Garrett Cole. And you mentioned Zach Greinke. He's a great example of a good real pitcher and a guy that you just don't see lining up fairly for fantasy upside. He doesn't really get us those strikeouts like yesteryear. 18% against lefties, 18.7% against righties. Really a contact pitcher that just is. He does weird stuff out there, and he's just having fun. Does give up some power to righties, a 1.43 home run per 9 this year against righties. That's almost perfectly in tune with what he allowed last year. So a guy like Aaron Judge does profile well, and really in a Yankees lineup that is notoriously righty heavy profile as well. We get Luke Voit back in the lineup today. A little bit of a power death row of righties, Judge, Voit, and Stanton. And those are all 3 guys that can strike out upwards of 30% against righties. And if Greinke's going to neutralize the strikeouts down to 18%, maybe cut that in half, there's a really good chance that that power stretch has a solid performance. And maybe they don't go back to back, but I definitely have a good exposure level to those 3 guys because I do think they're in a good spot.
All right. I see we've got an interesting question in chat here from Zachary. Let's see. Let me give this the old college try. Ericalian, who asks, are single entry GPPs cash games? Great question. This is always a confusing one because we're playing cash. We're paying cash to get into all the games. It's a little confusing. Basically, what that means, though, is head-to-heads, 50-50s, double ups, 3-mans, triple ups. Those are considered cash games. The lower the bar is, so you can get into your cash line, that is considered a cash game. Anything else is more or less considered GPPs. That stands for guaranteed prize pool, meaning that the contest is going to go off no matter what, even if it doesn't fill. So those are the definitions there on that one. Yeah, I don't have a ton else from this one. We do know that our buddy Carlos Correa is out. Let me think. Was he COVID list? I think.
Yeah, you got it correctly. Yeah, safety protocols.
So, how are you feeling about any stackage here going on with the Stros?
Yeah, I mean so they looked not great yesterday, but I do think like guys like Nestor Cortez, Chad Green, those guys are coming through really, really elite stretches. Nestor Cortez might be one of the most underrated pitchers in baseball right now. Garrett Cole, the Astros know what to expect from Garrett Cole right now, and he hasn't been that shutdown guy. So Nestor Cortez being good, and also not a lot of teams are familiar with him. This could be a spot where Garrett Cole, gets touched up a little bit. Astros looking to even up the series here. I don't mind. I have stacks of both teams. Neither one of them would be like my first 3 stacks to go after on this slate, but I definitely do have stacks of both teams. And this is an Astros team that, hits for a really, really good average. Brantley, Yuli Gurriel, Yordan Alvarez against righties the last 2 years and knocking on the door of 300 plus cumulatively. And then guys like Kyle Tucker, Miles Straw all hit for a decent average as well. So it's not an easy lineup by any stretch of the imagination. So I can absolutely see the Astros getting there. And then, having to use some of the better pitchers yesterday, the Yankees, they're going to have to lean on some maybe not as great pitchers. And, that odd decision on calling Aroldis Chapman into the game, which is, I got question marks in his own right, and they didn't use him yesterday. So it could be a solid 9 innings of opportunity for the Astros here. I'm looking at the bullpen report. You might see Luis Sessa, Wandy Peralta, Justin Wilson, like those are all guys that are absolutely beatable. So I don't mind the Astros stack if I'm being unbiased.
All right, let's see here. We got a couple free items today. We got the MLB player props tool. Of course, that is always free. Gives you the strikeouts as well as the home runs. Lets you know what the likely expected win rate is going to be on the over or under, and then the expected ROI based off the best sportsbook odds that are available via Odds Shopper. So you're always going to want to be shopping those odds, finding those better deals there. The less you are paying in the vigorish or the fee that goes to the hosting site, the better you're doing on your ROI, because that is directly out of your profitability. You'll want to check that out. We've got a couple props that we will talk about. I do have one here for this one. Let me see. Oops, I don't have one for this one, but I do have a PrizePicks. So here's an interesting one for PrizePicks. So PrizePicks sponsor the show. We'll get into them, but they're at prizepicks.com. Part 2, you pick 2, 3, 4, or 5 of their props. They can be prop sports bets or prop sports. Cross sport prop. Just F it. You can play MMA versus MLB versus NBA versus PGA versus CSGO. They've got it all. Pick 2, 3, 4, or 5. More questions you put into your parlay card, the better your odds. Get 5 right, win 10-1 on your entry fee. 1.5 total bases for Aaron Judge. So a double, he would win. A walk and a single, he would win. How are you feeling about 1.5 total bases? That's a far different cry from one or even a half total hits.
Yeah. So my advice, if you guys want to play PrizePicks, is I don't say my advice, but what I do is I don't bet the 1.5s because there's 1.5 basically for everybody on the slate. I bet the fantasy points. If I think Judge has a good shot at a homer today, I'd rather bet on the over on his fantasy points that they offer versus the total bases, because total bases is a little, sometimes I don't love it. So I'd recommend the fantasy points. I don't know what their fantasy point projection on them is, but it's usually probably going to be 8-10, nothing crazy. And I'd probably look at my favorite power plays for the over, and then also the fantasy points over under will allow you to go after some of your favorite aggressive base runners like Tatis. He's often one of my favorite plays on PrizePicks.
All right, we're gonna look here at. I don't know if they had Judge. Oh, they do have Judge. He is a 6.5 fantasy score.
Yeah. That's way like if Judge gets on like 6.5, I think feels way more comfortable than 1.5 bases.
Okay, fair enough. Anything else from this game, or shall we continue along here?
No, we can keep it moving.
Let's look to Cincinnati and Milwaukee. This one is going to be hosted by the Brewers. We have Gutierrez here. I see in chat they are asking thoughts on Gutierrez. Hey, we're going to get into that right here. My thought is target against him. He is one of the weaker pitchers on this particular slate. And his last start, he did have the best performance of his rookie campaign. He had allowed 7 home runs in the 4 games heading into that one. And then on Monday, he held the Royals to just 2 earned runs, scattering 5 hits across 6 innings with a half a dozen strikeouts. He's going through a little bit of an adjustment period. He did come over from Cuba. He was kind of rookie in the year of one of the, I don't think it was their main league. I think it was their secondary league, but he's been in the minor leagues for a couple seasons now for Major League Baseball. So he's moved up through the ranks and he is here now. The question I have for you, the Yahoo play of the day or stack of the day is the Brew Crew. Christian Yelich is the third most expensive player on his own team over there. He is $18. We have Luis Urias, who is 19. You have Willy Adames, who's 21. And then you have Jace Peterson, who, by the way, if you look at his numbers, actually is way better than I thought recently. But Jace Peterson has the same price as Christian Yelich. I don't think this is a steal on Yelich. In his MVP campaign, we saw him with about 11 to 12 percent launch angle. It went down to 4 and change. And this year it is like 2, which means extreme ground balls. He does have 5 home runs on the year. 4 have come since June. We know he's been dealing with some injuries. He's picked it up over his last few games, his last 69 at bats. He has a 420. See what I did there? 69 and 420. Wow. Weighted on base average with a 180 ISO. What are your thoughts on Christian Yelich? I've sort of been asking all the different people I do shows with on this one.
Acuna carted off field with leg injury. Oof. That's big. Christian Yelich is somebody that I've had to manually remove from my player pool because my projections and ratings model will love him too much. Or I set a really, really low ceiling on him. He's just not hitting the balls square, and the launch angle, a lot of pushback on the launch angle nerds, but there's if the ball's going directly into the ground, it's just not solid. And you mentioned he's third most on Yahoo. He's 5,800 on DraftKings, which is lapping the rest of his team. And I just rather put that 58 somewhere else. So I'm out on Yelich until further notice. And there's not really like at 5,800, there's easy pivots elsewhere. I get it. We want to stack the Brewers. So for the sake of a Brewer stack, maybe we toss them in those, but even then I'm a little less bullish on them just because I think some of the other Brewers offer a better value. A nickel and a shoe shine more, you can go get you a Shohei Ohtani, right? So I just don't. I'm out on Yelich here.
All right, and the interesting thing on that one, I wanted to bring it up on Yahoo, and it's because I think you have absolutely the correct answer on the other sides. It's like they're trying to tease us here a little bit on Yahoo, and it's one where it's like it's not a steal if he's hitting the ball into the ground or not necessarily if he's doesn't have nearly the launch angle he needs to. So if you go look at StatCast, basically they're saying, 10, I'm going off the top of my head, but like 10 to 15% launch angle is kind of their line drive. And anything above 15 tends to do a little bit better with regards closer to home runs. What do you kind of think the optimal is? Like 17 to 19, sort of depending on the player.
Yeah. And the power. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's got a 2. That's 2 Utah. Get me 2. Anyone know that movie? It's a good movie.
That's what you want inside the park here. With that said, Vladimir Gutierrez, 50% fly ball rate. Christian Yelich doesn't have 0 homers this season. So I there's still a reasonable range of outcomes that he gets him one off of a poor pitcher, 6.42 xFIP to lefties. And, DraftKings, no, but you mentioned Yahoo's price and FanDuel's price, 3,400. Maybe we don't think about 6K Yelich, but 3,400 Yelich in the 2 spot, five at bats against Gutierrez and one of the worst bullpens in baseball. Yeah, maybe he gets there for FanDuel, but on DraftKings, I really don't like that investment much.
All right, and that's kind of the key thing to look at here are the numbers. And I see someone in chat not a fan of numbers. Baseball is entirely numbers, and at this point so is DFS. It is more or less distilled down to probability. And what's even more probability based? Sports wagering. It's all about the numbers here. We're trying to gussy them up and make them interesting, but that is basically what wagering and forecasting is. It's all about odds and numbers. It's not about feels and good plays and bad plays. It's about the likelihood of success or failure, and that's the important thing to remember here. Point Break. Yes, Point Break to Utah. Get me two. The interesting one on this one is on the other side is going to be Freddie Peralta. This will be the fourth time he is going against Cincinnati this season. I'm not going to panic on that too much. There is some level of familiarity with hitters going against pitchers. And while it shouldn't have us doing cartwheels, someone who is knocking on the door of elite status, such as Freddie Peralta, should not be particularly, we should not be particularly worried or feel that that is an actionable decision just because he is facing them for the fourth time. He is flirting basically with top 10 ERA, WHIP, which is walks plus hits divided by innings pitched, which is aka base runners per inning, and strikeouts per 9. So he is on the cusp of making that next step into the upper echelon of pitching. How are you feeling about Mr. Freddie Peralta? And would you try to pair him on DraftKings with Walker Buehler in your air quote cash games?
Yeah, I think I don't mind that at all. Peralta is right behind Musgrove in my personal ownerships. The matchup today against the Reds are offering two hitters with a sub 20% carry rate against righties last couple of years. The rest of the lineup knocking a door of 24%, 1-4 to 1-5. So I definitely don't. I don't mind Peralta at all as one of my higher owned pitchers. Half of those games you mentioned are at Cincy. Cincy, a much tougher park to pitch in for just about any pitcher. It's a top home run park too. And Peralta he offers the upside. If you look at these pitchers on this slate, isolate who has the highest ceiling in their individual stuff, their strikeout stuff, their swing and miss stuff. Peralta's right up there with all of them, and you could argue he might be at the top. So Musgrove definitely in the top two for me in terms of my personal exposures to pitchers. And the Brewers minus 216. So if you love the FanDuel scoring, FanDuel definitely rewards the quality start and wins. Peralta's gone 6 innings or more in 4 straight, and minus 200, good chance to get you that win bonus as well on top of the strikeout stuff. So I definitely like Peralta a lot. I wouldn't think you're crazy to put him in a cash game. I have him in a couple DraftKings smaller stuff.
Excellent. As we're approaching this here, we do know that we're going to be looking for some leverage more often when you want, and this is something I've really found that Adam and Greg and Eric Lindquist, those guys are really discussing it this year, that a lot of times they're not even really playing stacks if the pitcher is not particularly owned by the rest of the field. And part of that is we're back to math again. But part of that is the leverage factor, and that you can sort of double dip, if you will. If you have a stack that is going against a popular pitcher, and you don't want to do this with an ace or so, but with great fervor, but you can start to gain leverage there. So say someone like Peralta, so here's our ace, is gaining a ton of popularity, which he should be. We know that Cincy is dangerous with regards to their offense. Yes, they play in the Great American Ballpark, Miller Park, I guess it's not Miller Park. What is it? American Family Insurance Field, or whatever they're calling it these days, is relatively okay with regards to hitting. It's not a pitcher's park, but it's more or less neutral, but it's not a horrible park. They have the ability to put up crooked numbers. So is this someone you'd be willing to take a handful of your lineups against? Maybe you don't want the one-offs for Cincy, but perhaps you look at a 3 or a 4-man isolated concentrated stack. You can put your player pool there and get the synergy off of it, while the rest of the people are probably shotgun approaching everything, and you're going against a pitcher. If your stack does well, that in turn likely means that pitcher's doing poorly. You can double jump the field. Is that something you pay attention to as well?
Yeah, absolutely. My game as a player has definitely evolved more into a math equation versus, when the entry level MME is like, I want 10% of this team, 20% of that, 20%. It doesn't really have it has a meaning on the surface, but when you start in depth in that 20% versus the field's 30% isn't as powerful, and doesn't have as much meaning at the end of the night. So the theory being, you don't have to give up as much equity to pull off some stacks. Like if I liked the Reds today, we have them projected at 3.7% owned as a stack. well, I don't need to give them 10, 20%. I can give them equity, still be overweight. Matter of fact, we look at our top stacks tool. The Reds are 6.5% chance of being the top stack with 3.7% ownership. So right there, I could match the 6%, 7%. Heck, I give them 8%. Still feel like I have enough power equity over the field ownership. And then if it did pop off, those lineups are going to jump to the top. So yeah, absolutely. What you said makes a lot of sense. What those guys have been discussing makes a lot of sense. And it becomes one big math equation. So if you guys fell asleep during algebra 2 like I did, you might.
Yeah, we're playing catch up here. That's the hard part. I wish we had this. If they were teaching a DFS math course, we would all be paying attention, taking notes, staying after, talking to the teachers and the TAs. But no, they didn't have that when we were doing this. So here's the easier way to say it. So we do all the heavy lifting for you. That's kind of the whole point. So all these numbers and things that we are referencing here, the main one we have is the top stacks tool. So it tells you what is the likelihood of the stack being the most owned. What is it the likelihood of it being the most successful? What is it likely of being the best point per dollar? And then how do you leverage it against the field? So if something has a positive leverage number, that means if you go a little higher, you'll be above the field and there is room to, quote, arbitrage your value. So with Cincinnati, it has a 2.9 leverage score. That's one of the highest of the night because everybody else is more or less appropriately where they ought to be. We're down to 6 games, probably 5. It's a lot of good pitching tonight. So everything is just kind of settling where it ought to. Yesterday, we didn't have a lot of great pitching. We had 14 games and you had all sorts of things that could happen. Things sort of settled a little bit because there was just so many places to spread out. There wasn't ways to concentrate, but there was a lot of good places where you could go to gain some of that leverage, if you will, against the field. And again, that leverage is saying if my group does well, it's likely making somebody else's group do poorly. That's double the movement. So there we go. I just wanted to hit on that because I know a lot of people don't get to watch us until they get the weekends or don't always see the strategy show, but that's an important concept that we wanted to get to here. Anything else on this game?
No, Brewers have one of the higher run totals on the slate, 5.2. So just inherently on that fact alone, we probably project them to be pretty well owned. I think right now we have them second behind the Dodgers. So, expect them to be a side. Even though they're second owned, there's actually still some leverage to be had based on the ownership projected. So it's actually pretty spread out over the top 4 teams. So the Brewers could be really, really valuable, and it's a little bit pushed back internally on Brewers projecting so well and us being so skittish on Yelich, the 2-hole hitter for the second top stack. So I might have to open up some Yelich, but I straight up plucked him from my player pool on DraftKings. So maybe it's only right. I throw some back in it. When I did my run before we went live, there was a couple teams like Will Smith for the Dodgers is not in the lineup, so I had to go back and adjust all that. But maybe when I do that, I'll put Yelich back in. But no, I'm with you. I think we covered. You can get to some Reds without having to give up too much.
All right, let's move on to the next one. I see in chat we have, let's see, Derek says, hey, which game is at risk of being the weather concern? And that is going to be, or that is Slim asking that. And Derek answered, he did say it's St. Louis and Chicago. So it's raining there now. It doesn't look great. There is no, if you wait, it's going to get better. The worry is if they delay the start, there's not a window that's coming before a reasonable hour. It looks like 10, probably it looks like 11, 12, or even later if it even is going to clear up at that point. So if they want to play tonight, they're going to have to play it wet. I don't like that because these two teams are, square off a fair amount of times. It's Chicago and St. Louis. It's the, what is this? Is it the I-70 series out there? Trying to remember. I don't really know Missouri and Illinois all that well, but that would be my guess. So they one, they're close by, even if they have joint off days, they could schedule something. And 2, they're going to play each other again. And they both have home and aways after the All-Star break. So they can do a doubleheader tomorrow because everybody's going into the All-Star break after Sunday. So I feel like it may not play tonight. I think there's just enough risk that I'm just going to take it out of my player pool. There are other places to go tonight. We still have 10 other teams. So for me, I'm just going to approach it and just not worry about it because I think it will be only a partial game, meaning if it does get their 5 innings in, that doesn't help me. Right. It's like playing one of the 7-inning doubleheader games. You're just going to get it cut short.
Doesn't Wrigley have like a curfew or something? Like they usually don't play Friday nights, right? Like, so I would definitely be worried about a game that has to be delayed even more so, you know?
Oh, the I-70 series is Kansas City and San. I was guessing. I don't live in the Midwest. I was close though. 2 baseball cities. One of them's technically in Missouri. Kansas City doesn't play in Kansas, guys. I know you guys know that, but just throwing it out there. What do you want to do with this game? And for those that are being daring and taking on the risk, which is an absolutely perfectly good way of going in this one, what are your recommendations for this game? Because the Cubbies look kind of nice against Kim here.
Kim has a 15.8% K rate to righties, near 270 average allowed, over a 1 homer per night. So if you isolate the matchup itself, there's reasonable merit into liking the Cubs bats. Wilson Contreras, Chris Bryant, Javi Baez, especially Javi Baez, a guy that we know can hit lefties with some power, but his bugaboo is the strikeout. Even Patrick Wisdom. I mean, these are big power guys, but they strike out a lot. So if you're going to get a pitcher with a 15% K rate, he's going to dare you to make contact. It's a good spot in theory. If you can, if we extract all the weather stuff, if it did play, it looks like the wind would be blowing in. Maybe that eats a few, homers into warning track, fly out, something like that. But yeah, there's plenty of reason to be interested in this Cubs team against a contact lefty. So I have some of the Cubs right now because I'll be honest, I'm a little lazy. I saw green on my thing. If I don't see yellow or whatever, I didn't bother to do some research. But like I said, I also worry about the Chicago. I don't know if they have like an official curfew, but they often don't like the Cubs to play at night. So if there is a rain delay, that does make me a little bit more skittish to think that, that they might have more pressure than usual than other teams to just go ahead and call it. And like you said, being a close rival, they can make this game up pretty easily. So I actually might have to go and adjust that. But all that aside, I think the Cubs are in a solid spot. Not necessarily projecting like a crazy high offense game. Both teams just under a 4.5 implied run total. But I do think there's a range of outcomes for this Cubs in a neutral game to get off on a contact lefty. And then Zach Davies running it back here. He's a contact righty, 14.6% K rate overall, 15% to righties, 13.9 to lefties, high xFIP. He's going to dare you to put the ball in play. His ground ball rate's pretty high and his hard contact rate's pretty low, so he doesn't really offer a ton of power upside. And Cardinals don't necessarily come at you with menacing bats. I guess Arenado, Tyler O'Neill would be teams that are guys on the team that have the highest ISO in the last 2 years against righties. So if you wanted to cherry pick a couple of those, but I didn't really find myself too interested in full stacking Cardinals, just a couple of guys here and there. So I did have more interest in the Cubs though. So I guess I'll be keeping my ear to the ground here, and we have to make a decision pretty quickly.
Yeah, we've got 25 minutes. This is one of the games that is locking at 7:15. There are 3 games at 7:15 and then 3 games at the 10 o'clock hour. So we have a nice 3-game late slates as well. We're going to head in and discuss that one here in just a second, but I do want to talk a little bit about PrizePicks here, sponsor of the show. Fun thing about PrizePicks is it's a prop-based contest. They want to help you get started with a deposit bonus. So you're going to get a 100% deposit bonus match up to $100 with your first deposit. Use the promo code Awesemo and they will match you, again, up to your first $100. You don't have to worry about sharks or optimizers or mass multi-entry there. All you got to do is pick 2, 3, 4, or 5 players who are available on the board to go over or under whatever their projected score is. Yes, we said score because, as Gundacker mentioned, there is some fantasy point totals here that we can look at. So let's take a peek at some of those here. I do have one coming up here for our next game. This is for the Angels at Seattle. So the fun game note here, we were talking about this pre-show. The Mariners are 5 games over 500 with a minus 46 run differential. That's pretty hard to do. I think it's Miami that actually has like a positive 30 run differential, and I think they're under 500. So fun with baseball there. You can mess around with, yet again, more math, the Pythagorean scoring win totals there. But check that one out. So prop of the game, this is a prop. No home run for Fletcher is even money. He did hit his first home run of the season last night, and I want to say like 18th of his career or something like that. So there's a fun one. Odds of him not getting a home run is even money. Ohtani getting a home run. He hit his 33rd last night. 5th player ever to go in the second deck in T-Mobile Park. He has a prop of 280. If he hits a home run, you get plus 280. And then his teammate Walsh, plus 325. Ohtani obviously leading the league in home runs. Walsh is quietly 7th, and he's also 5th in RBI. So those are the guys you're going to want to stack. Who you put them with? Well, whoever, because you have a lot of contact hitters on the Angels, not a lot of power, which works in well for Chris Flexen, who has more or less limited power with his do-over here in the majors after spending last year with the KBO. So all of that is the fun, and I'm going to turn you loose on it. But the Ohtani prop is 8 fantasy points, and that's over on PrizePicks. Well, how do you know what PrizePicks fantasy point scoring is? It's FanDuel scoring. So all you got to do is use our FanDuel projections, and you can figure out if you want to go over or under. We're projecting Ohtani for just over 14 fantasy points. He's at 8 for their over-under. He has surpassed 8 fantasy points in 20 of his last 24 games. That's just his hitting points. This does not count his pitching points. He's not pitching tonight. But what do you want to do here with the Angels? And how many Ohtanis does Ohtani tonight? We're renaming them. They're not home runs anymore. They're Ohtanis.
Yeah, it's dude is just incredible. Like if you weren't a baseball fan, or even if you are a baseball fan, you just get tired of seeing people praise him on Twitter. But what he's doing is actually insane. Yeah, it's nuts. I'm stacking Angels. They're one of my stacks here. Chris Flexen being a contact guy. That seems to be the story of the slate. There's a lot of contact pitching. Ohtani in the 2 spot. He could have 5 at-bats here, 6 at-bats against the Mariners. You take 6 at-bats of Ohtani against anybody at this point. He might end up being my highest owned player. So, yeah, I'm in on that. Jared Walsh, you put his power against the contact righty. I'll be a buyer in that. You mentioned David Fletcher. I actually had one of my medium stake single entries yesterday. I had a lineup that featured David Fletcher, and I was like, nah, I got to take him out. He doesn't hit for power. And what does he do? Immediately flips me off. And then I was on the fence about Ohtani because Marco Gonzalez had pretty solid lefty splits, holding lefties to no power. And Ohtani just like, I'm not human. Remember, boom, there it goes. See ya. So yeah, I'm in on the Angels. I think with the Angels that I do like is that they're pretty easy team to stack. You know, there's some teams that are pretty spread out as to where the runs come from. Very little Angel stacks have me interested if it doesn't have Ohtani. So I'm stacking the Angels, but I don't have to go crazy on it because I can probably get the combinations I want pretty quickly and efficiently. And I'm there. So I have them. I think I have 8% of Angel stacks, and Ohtani's just in everything I got. So yeah, give me some Angels. I also don't hate some Mariners either. We talked about the Mariners are the first team on the outside looking in on the AL wildcard spot, which is just insane to me. That they're in that position, even more when you talked about the run differential. It's just like baseball is so weird.
Yeah, it's mind-boggling to me every time I look at it as a Mariners fan. I'm like, how is this happening? Don't worry, they'll rip my heart out and show it to me while it's still beating, but whatever. So I do have how do you feel about Pablo Sandoval as a pitcher today? More or less looking at an SP2 on DK.
Unless the Braves are getting blown out, I probably wouldn't expect to.
Sorry. Damn it. Which Sandoval is it? Patrick. Hey, good God. Hey, to be fair, Kung Fu Panda has pitched now.
Yeah.
He has pitched. Tyler, you take that back right now.
Patrick Sandoval just chipping a chair against the Mariners. Mariners allow some decent games for pitchers, average pitching sometimes. 27% K rate against lefties so far. There's a lot of strikeout potential in this lineup. We don't necessarily play Sandoval for their strikeouts, but he can get them. 16% swinging strike rate. Well, what do we might expect on a pitch count? Got 101 pitches last game against the Orioles. Didn't get to 6 innings on 100 pitches, so that's a little bit worrisome. 95 pitches against Tampa, only 5 innings. So, yeah, if you can get to 6 innings, 8,400. I tell you what, I got Sandoval in the back end of my pitcher pool, but maybe I raise him up. The only thing that like scares me a little bit is his xFIP to righties is pretty high, 4.43 xFIP with a 124 home run per nine. Maybe that's gonna come back a little bit because he's got a 50% ground ball rate and just a 25% hard contact rate. But otherwise, like I think this Mariners lineup does have a couple of scrappy guys. I think Mitch Haniger would be my biggest concern here, but a lot of 200 plus ISO. So yeah, maybe I didn't give Sandoval the respect he deserves in my ownership, but I don't think it's a crazy range of outcome for Sandoval to be a solid play, considering his strikeout numbers and considering, the Mariners can be strikeout prone.
I have him as one of my three most owned pitchers for this late slate. And it's kind of nip and tuck there with what I'm doing with Musgrove. So it's basically him, Musgrove, Peralta, and Buehler. So it's kind of, I'm trying to go a little under Musgrove. We'll talk about him in just a second, but that price on DK is making it really, really tough from that one. So this game, I think, is a nice one to play both sides of, because there is the opportunity for both pitchers to kind of fail. And that's a key thing. And you mentioned Haniger. That is also the home run call in T. McBee Terry's article that he does every day. That's free in front of the paywall. He breaks down tournament leverage plays across the board. And that is a free article you get on the Awesemo.com homepage. His usually comes out early afternoon. I do the Spotlight Pitchers and Stacks article that usually comes out just before noon. I write down, and our articles are different, even though we're both talking about stacks a lot of the time. I do a stack for each slate. So today I did one for the afternoon games, the main slate, and then I did one for the late slate. Yesterday I did one for the main slate, the evening slate, and then the late slate. So that's how we keep the information different. And frankly, I can't keep writing up the same teams over and over, because basically there's 7 teams you want to always be stacking unless they're going against a true ace. It's boring, Gundacker. I like to find some different things to write about. So this way I get to talk about some of the more obscure teams. And all of a sudden I have been writing up the Mariners because they do play on the West Coast and are almost always one of our later games. So I do get to write them up fairly often. All right. Do you want to go to our next game here? We've got 17 minutes left.
Yes.
All right. So Arizona at the Dodgers. So here's the interesting thing. PrizePicks, you can also do the pitchers' fantasy points. I do not think those are good wagers to do because they're almost accurate for where they should be. And I don't want to mess with that. The margins on them are just way too slim. Or you should really start thinking about going on the unders. So Buehler tonight, he had a 39 when I pulled it about an hour ago. He had a 39 fantasy point total. Awesemo's projecting him for 40 fantasy points. Again, these are PrizePicks points, which are the same as FanDuel's. And he has gone under 40 or under. He has 2 games of 40 or under 10 of his 17 games. That's 58% of the time he doesn't get this. That's okay. That doesn't mean he's a bad pitcher for our salary games. Why is that? Well, he leads the league with quality starts. He's completed the 6th inning in all but 1 start, and that had just happened to be his last start, and he completed the 5th inning. He is top 7 in ERA and WHIP, and his strikeouts, even though they're not having us do cartwheels, he does it at 8.9 per 9, so it's almost a strikeout per inning. Perfectly acceptable, especially when you consider the matchup he has tonight going against the team that is the 2nd worst in the league against right-handed pitching. How are you feeling about Mr. Buehler? And is there a single bat, maybe 2, you would leverage against him? And I don't know who it was, because you got Asdrubal Cabrera playing 35 years old, and he's playing a major role in this offense. That doesn't seem right.
Yeah, so I mean, I think Buehler's one of the he's definitely one of my top 3 owned pitchers. In our top pitchers tool, we got him at a 38% chance of being a top 2 pitcher on DraftKings. This is a guy that has a deep pitch count. A lot of Dodgers pitchers might get that quick hook, but we've seen him throw, 113 pitches 2 games ago. Last start before the All-Star break, no reason to baby him. He's going to get some time to rest. So I don't mind Buehler. I think 9,600 on DraftKings still cheap enough to get to. He just dropped 30 plus on the D-backs in his only start against them at Arizona. So he's in a really solid spot here, and he is a sizable favorite, minus 316, largest on the slate. So for sites like PrizePicks and FanDuel that might give you an extra bit of love for the QS and the W, you could kind of bake that into your projection. So I definitely like Buehler as a play today. If I wanted to pick on Buehler, there's really not much to isolate in terms of weakness. I guess his hard contact rate allowed and fly ball rate allowed to lefties, to righties is a little bit elevated. But there's not really that profile righty that kind of fits the bill for me. Nick Ahmed had a solid game last night, I think, with SBs, but they don't really have that power righty that I'm running to or from. So it's hard for me to find a leverage play. It's just a bunch of death by paper cut style of hitters. Cole Calhoun's back in the mix. He has had a sizable ISO against righties, but Buehler has been pretty solid at holding lefties to below a 30% hard contact rate over the course of the last 2 seasons. So I don't have much infatuation with this D-backs lineup, and I'm there on Walker Buehler as a rock steady quality start. Hopefully I can get a strikeout per inning.
Cole Calhoun is back in the Diamondbacks lineup. I had forgotten he was on their team. He's been out for so long. Wow, that does not move the needle. He's going to strike out. He's going to hit 240, and somehow he's going to hit for a little bit of power. There you go. That's it, but not tonight. Congratulations on your 2-home run night. Now that I've specifically called you out, but much like you did last night with David Fletcher in your lineup. So let me see here. All right, let's hit on our last game. Then we'll have some questions. We got 12 minutes to go here. We have San Diego hosting Colorado here. You've got Musgrove, who has allowed 10 earned runs in his last 2 starts spanning 9.1 innings. He's been a little unlucky. 15 base runners in those 9 innings, 10 of them scored. Again, just 2 home runs. Now, he does have a no-hitter this year. He also has been someone who has improved his spin rate. Here's the interesting thing about him. The spin rate over his last 10 games has not changed a lot and more or less imperceptible, and it's been his cutter that it has changed on, or that it has decreased on. Everything else is relatively the same. Now, so I wasn't on the show, but I was messaging back and forth with Greg Ehrenberg and T. McBee, Terry McBride, who were on the earlier show today talking about the strategy. And so Greg's thought was, this is weird that his things have sort of fallen apart since the inspection for the stinky stuff. I said, hey, but not much has changed. How does that impact you? And Terry kind of had the same thing. And we were all kind of coming to the same angle. Perhaps, while not affecting his spin rate, it's changing somehow the way he's pitching, his delivery, his motion, his grip, his something. So perhaps this is either noise or something else is amiss. And while it's not the spin rate that's directly affected, perhaps it's something else. Or again, it could just be noise. Because again, 10 out of 15 base runners scored, that's a lot. His price on DraftKings has mitigated the vast majority of this. Colorado is the worst team against right-handed pitching, scoring 30% less than average. That's a 70 WRC plus weighted runs created plus. That is horrible. So I'm in on Musgrove, but I don't think you need to go there on FanDuel. I'm ambivalent or neutral to the field on Yahoo. How are you feeling about Musgrove with these moving parts? Because I want to know if Gundacker has the tinfoil on under his beanie.
No, 2-game sample size. I really 3. You look at the last 3 games for Musgrove. You get the Dodgers, that's not a cup of tea. You get at Cincy, that's one of the tougher parts to pitch in. And then the wheels just kind of fell off at home against Washington. We saw that happen to Yu Darvish as well. I know I definitely think the sticky stuff we've directly tacked on to some pitchers. But I don't know that we have everything in line to really give a guilty or innocent verdict for Musgrove. I do think it could be noisy based on the matchups and what have you. And then even if he comes out and pitches a gem today, I'm not necessarily thinking we're right or wrong because the Rockies are bad. Yes. So because of that, at 7,700, there's really not a reason for me to not be invested heavily in Musgrove on DraftKings, and he's my highest owned DraftKings pitcher. But on FanDuel right now, I think he's my number 3. So yeah, there's definitely a difference in sights and in value on what Musgrove can provide. So I'm really just hoping he gets me a shot at an 18-point game. 18 DKP point game and do a little bit better on an upside game against this Rockies team that is just really, really bad. I think they have like a 72 WRC plus against righties. And, I'm sure it's out here on the road. They've got just horrendous splits. So I'm going to play him. I'm not going to try and figure out what's going on with Musgrove in the last couple games because I just think 7.7, I'll accept it. If he gets blown up by the Rockies, it happens. I don't have any Rocky stack, but we talked about the concept of grabbing a stack for the heck of it. The field has less than 2% of Rockies exposure. So like if you wanted to hedge your Musgrove, you can throw 3% on it and still be above the field. But I'm heavily standing on Musgrove Hill here especially on DraftKings.
All right. Butthole Jenkins does point out that there is some BVP for Cole Calhoun going against Walker Buehler. He's only hit home runs against Walker Buehler. 3 for 8, 3 home runs. That's not changing my assessment, but now I'm fully confident he's going to hit 2 tonight just to give me the double bird. Yeah, for picking against him. Let's see here on the Herman Marquez side of things. Good pitcher, not great. I'm willing to match the field here. San Diego doesn't exactly have me doing cartwheels. However, I'm okay with their premium hitters in this one. Colorado bullpen, not particularly great. This is, again, kind of an ambivalent one, which is how I've ended up on so many Mariners and Angels. But kind of there we are on that. What do you have on the Marquez versus the Friars side?
Yeah, I mean, you have some just to diversify 100, 150. I probably wouldn't land there in like 20 or less. I on the road, he's been solid this year, 3.8 xFIP, a 24% K rate, keeps the ball in the strike zone, just an 8% walk rate, and he will allow an uncomfortable average 250 plus and over 1 home run per 9. But there's at 7,400, there's a world where he gives you a serviceable 18 DKP. The pushback here is the Padres matchup is a rough one. The Padres are sizable favorites, so you can't really bank on him for a win or anything like that. You're just kind of playing him. If I were to play him, it would really just be a DraftKings SP2 spot and just hope for that percentile that he's a serviceable play. But it's nothing I'm warm and fuzzy about. With that said, we're not running to stack Padres, even though I do like the Padres as a stackable team. So the Padres have a 6.7% top stack rating in our top stack tool. And that's less than the percent that Marquez had as to be a top 2 pitcher. He has a 13.6% chance. So you can easily play both sides of that fence if you're an MMA person and not have to give up much equity to either side of that. And that doesn't happen a whole lot. So I'll have some Marquez, but I'll have some Padres and guys like Fernando Tatis are Swiss Army knives that can hit for power, steal bases and just get on. So both sides for me, but not a lot.
All right. TTID Forever says, if there's a bustle in your hedgerow, well, don't be alarmed now. It's just a spring clean for the May Queen. Do you know that one? There are 2 paths you can go by, but in the long run, there's still time to change the stack you're on. I'm going to make Stairway to Heaven into baseball.
I was going to say, is that Maya Angelou? I don't know. I don't you change the stack you're on.
Your head is humming and it won't go in case you don't know. Otani's calling you to join him.
Boomers are going off right now.
There we go. We had to have some fun.
Anyone who types LOL in chat is over 40. Let's go. Exposing yourself.
Yes, there we go. It's there. Those are the people. Those are my people. Oh, they want the De Niro.
Oh no, not that thing.
Oh, I see the chat. Premium Slack chat says they want Kashmir tonight. Another Led Zeppelin song, Kashmir. You know that one. Dun-a-notch, dun-a-notch. Oh, come on. I grew up in a town called Kashmir. Literally.
How old do you think I am, EMac?
34.
I'm younger, but I'm not that far.
Oh!
Yeah.
De Niro says you're older.
Yeah, he does.
All right, I'm quickly uploading my lineups here. I have taken that game, the St. Louis Cubs game, out of my player pool. The reason I did that is I don't think it's going to necessarily be postponed. I don't know that it is going to be a full game. Alex has it with just a 10% postponement risk. That's the game being canceled after it has already started. I just don't feel comfortable getting to it. So that's the approach I'm taking tonight. Did you make a final decision on what you're doing with that one?
I didn't have a ton of exposure to it anyway. I do have some Chris Bryant bias, guys like that. On DraftKings, you do keep the points if they do get there in the first of 2 innings.
Oh, that's right. They've changed that now.
So, if it happens, it happens. But that's just the risk I'm willing to take here to get a little bit different.
Download these. Hey, reminder, we do have the free main slate ownership projections tonight. We also have free MMA fighter rankings. There is the 8:00 slate over on DraftKings for tonight's pay-per-view. It's the televised version of their slate. And then also, if you guys come over to Awesemo.com, you see those little ESPN banners on the side. Click through that. We got a little deal that we're doing some sponsorship stuff with ESPN now. This is our gateway. Hopefully we can do some more with them. That would be amazing. But if you click through that when you're signing up for the pay-per-view, it gives us a little referral and says, hey, we have a direct audience here that is interested in these sorts of things, and perhaps we can do some other things with them in the future. No special deals on that. It's the same deal they're giving to everybody else. It just helps us out. If you sign up there for the pay-per-view is special tonight. It's $59.99 if you already have ESPN Plus or you have Disney Plus. And if you do not have the ESPN Plus, you can sign up for $89.99 tonight. You get the pay-per-view and you get a full year of ESPN Plus. You can cancel the ESPN Plus portion of that at any time, and it will prorate back to you. I learned all of these things by going to the ESPN page because somehow we have Disney Plus and I have ESPN Plus, so I don't think I need both of them tonight. But there we are. We are almost at lock. Who is your home run call of the night, and why is it Shohei Ohtani?
Yeah, I like Ohtani.
Who is your Ohtani of the night?
I like Judge, Stanton, and Voit. I think one of those three has to get one, and maybe two or three. Judge is the top of the bomb detector. You mentioned the term BVP earlier, so I googled that, and Giancarlo Stanton's got a little history if you're into that. But yeah, Judge at the top for me. Ohtani's just kind of baked in. Like anytime someone home run call tonight, Ohtani, you're taking victory laps on
Stanton?
Twitter. Yeah,
it's 4 for 20.
Okay,
that's nothing.
But
two home runs. In those 4 hits.
I got 3. I think there's a postseason bomb in there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, 4 for 20. Is that why you? Okay. All right.
I don't know. All I can say is, are you talking to me?
Oh God, can't do it. That's the only 200 liked reward. I can't do it for every stream. Gosh darn it! All
right. Well, we did not. We didn't even get to 100 likes. Hit that like button. Come on. What are you guys doing? Get on in there, hit that like button. We're doing this all over again tomorrow. We do have NBA back for tomorrow. It is going to be the 8:00 game, and it is in Milwaukee now. And all of a sudden, Milwaukee went from 4.5 to 5.5 point underdogs, to 4-point favorites. So we are starting out tomorrow at 10 o'clock with the NBA strategy show. You're going to get Eitan and Josh, and then at 11 you're getting the MLB deeper dive. That is going to be Eric Lindquist and Terry McBride. Then at noon you're going to get myself and Max, MLB live before lock, and then at 2 o'clock you're going to get a little bit of an NBA strategy video on demand there for PrizePicks from Greg Ehrenberg. Use that promo code Awesemo when signing up at PrizePicks, and they will get you $100 on your first deposit matched up to $100. And then 7 o'clock, you get the NBA live before lock. That will be with Eitan and Greg. Final thoughts before we get on out of here, good sir.
What we got? One more slate for the All-Star break, I think. It might be.
Yes,
So
indeed.
you might not see a bunch of you guys for a little bit and enjoy your break. Rare opportunity to play some basketball during the MLB All-Star break. So enjoy it because we don't ever get this. It's usually 4 days of sitting on our hands.
All right. Well, with that, I got to say Aerosmith tickets, top priority of the summer. All right. With that, gamers, good luck.